It's the 7th of April, I'm Tom Glasson and welcome to The Roast. I'm just binge watching the last season of Lammy and the Brick before the next episode drops in a couple of minutes. It's pretty easy, there were only ever 3 episodes produced and it's the only show on air that's shorter than ours. Tonight on The Roast, we do a full recap on the WA Senate election. All the results, an analysis of the... It is mostly just results, actually. So first, here's Mark Humphries with the headlines.
Like a man obsessed with strip clubs, West Australians went back to the polls on Saturday. Let's look at the winners. Palm United Party candidate Dio Wang, who of course is the grown-up version of Mr. Cool from School of Rock, picked up a seat. But don't think for one second that Dio Wang is just going to be Clive Palmer's plaything.
Would you be Clive Palmer's puppet?
No, I wouldn't. I'll be the people's puppet.
The people's puppet. People like this guy, and this guy. And let's not forget this guy. No, a little to the left. That guy. So, just to recap, we've got the People's Puppet, the People's Princess, and the People's Purple People Eater. As for the Greens, they scored a seat with the re-election of their candidate Scott Ludlam, seen here right before he had beanbag sex with the person taking this picture. Ludlam's win comes after one of his speeches went viral on YouTube, which explains the Greens' choice of candidate for the 2016 election, the goat that yells like a man. And the Labor Party secured one Senator Joe Bullock, seen here dressed in his bus driver outfit. It's surprising Bullock made it in at all, given he's had a run of gaffes that made James Diaz seem like Abraham Lincoln. During the campaign, it was revealed he'd criticised his running mate's sexuality, doesn't always vote Labor, and described Labor Party members as mad. In the words of someone watching the 2010 Oscars, I can't believe Bullock won. Moving on now to the Afghanistan election, Afghans turned out in strong numbers for the historic event. The elections are Western in many ways, but do have their own local twist. For starters, donkey vote means something entirely different over there.
Afghan residents in the rugged Panjshir Valley volunteered their own donkeys and mules to carry ballot boxes.
So, unlike the Australian Electoral Commission, the Afghan Electoral Commission has a decent excuse if it loses votes. The donkey carrying the votes fell off a cliff. The Afghan elections have been regarded as a success, although there is one downside. Looks like this guy's getting a seat. Former US President George W. Bush has unveiled a series of portraits he painted of foreign leaders. Mr. Bush reportedly took up painting after leaving the White House in January 2009, starting with his pets and landscapes. And we have a painting of one of his pets here. As you can see, this new hobby fits in with Mr. Bush's ongoing quest to do things he's not very good at. For The Roast, I'm Mark Humphries.
Thank you, Mark. And as Mark mentioned earlier, Western Australians went back to the polls to redo their Senate election over the weekend. And the new Senate is now projected to look like this impossible version of Connect 4, with a swing towards the Greens and Palmer United Party and swings away from both Liberal and Labor. There were also slides towards the Katter Party and a seesaw on top of the... No, I'm sorry, that wasn't the election, that was just a park I was in. But Green Senator Scott Ludlam was enthused by his win, saying,
"Our campaign isn't funded by the coal industry or gas industry. The only way to compete with the major party financing by big business or Clive Palmer buying seats is people power."
So The Roast can now confirm Scott Ludlam harvests people for power like they are Matrix baby batteries. But the biggest loser from the election, other than the exhausted fetus, was the Labor Party, winning only one seat for SDA union boss and live-action Harvey Crumpet, Joe Bullock. There remains a slim chance Labor might secure a second seat for sitting Labor Senator Louise Pratt, although it looks more likely that will result in a loss, which is bad news for probably former sitting Senator Louise Pratt. So with union heavyweight Joe Bullock being the only seat secured by Labor, Bill Shorten considered the situation so dire he announced,
"I believe it should no longer be compulsory for prospective members of the Labor Party to join a union."
Well, with the similar losses recorded for Liberals, Tony Abbott responded by saying,
"There was absolutely nothing in this vote yesterday to suggest that voters have suddenly decided they love the carbon or mining tax."
Yes, the result is a clear mandate to scrap the carbon tax. That's why there was a big swing towards the Greens. As they say in politics, if you want something done right, elect the people who don't want to do it at all. Alex Lee is at the Liberal Party headquarters. Alex, the mood must be pretty sombre there after the loss over the weekend.
Well, that's what I was expecting, Tom, but when I got here on Saturday night, the celebrations were in full swing.
So Saturday, you've been there all weekend?
The Libs had a mandate to party, Tom. And Julie Bishop and Michaelia Cash in particular were in a good mood after winning first prize at the Royal Easter Show.
But didn't they suffer a 5% swing against them in this election?
Tom, you have to average it out. As Erica Betts explained to me over by the champagne fountain last night, there's always a swing against the government once they're actually in power. Since the last election, the people voted in the idea of the government. This time they actually know what the government is doing, so of course they're going to lose a few votes.
You know, it seems like a pretty damning indictment on the government's actions so far.
But they expected it, Tom, so it's fine. It's much better than Labor. Listen to what our Betts had to say this morning.
The Labor Party went down nearly as much as we did, which must be sending shockwaves through the Labor Party.
Hear that, Tom? Labor suffer a 5% swing against them. It's a disaster. Liberals get the same result. That's a disaster worth celebrating.
All right, well, thank you for that, Alex. We'll be right back after this.
You can find The Roast on Twitter @TheRoastTV. Why don't you jump on there now and answer tonight's question? Have you ever lost something but knew you were going to lose, so claimed that loss as a win because you predicted that loss, so that made everything okay? We'd love to hear about it. @TheRoastTV or #RoastTV.
And now that the WA election has been run and rerun, Clive Palmer is set to have 3 senators to do his bidding. He's got Jackie Lambie, Glenn the Brick with Eyes Lazarus, and now Dio Wang. And that balance of power is going to be pretty hard to stop, especially because not only has the Palmer United Party announced they plan to block everything, they also appear to be mutants with the power of invisibility. You see, both Lambie and Lazarus have not made a public appearance since being elected, so one can only assume that their newly elected X-Man, Dio Wang, will perform a similar disappearing act until July 1st. Now, to better understand what's going on in the Palmer United Party, let's take a look at the latest episode of our yet-to-be award-winning political children's cartoon, Lambie and the Brick.
It's Lambie and the Brick.
And Wang.
I'm really excited to join Lambie and the Brick in the Senate and start making a difference. I actually have a lot of ideas about things we could block. You did good today, Wang. Now get in the pit.
But I won. Today's my day.
It's not called the Wang United Party. Get in the pit.
Congratulations on your big win, Wang. Welcome to the PUP, the Palmer United Pip.
Brick. Now, I don't want to hear a peep out of you guys until July.
Can we please come out, Mr. Palmer? Just for a little bit.
You shut your mouth, you little cutlet, or I'll mash your butt with your little Brit friend! Oh! Brick.
I'm scared too, Bricky, but this is our home now.
Pointless Senate, the candidates are really just Palmer's pawns living in a pit.
Yeah, I'm sorry, can we just backtrack for 1 second? Was that a dinosaur with his hand up a talking dick's butt? Yeah, I thought so. Well, no wonder that show hasn't been picked up by ABC3. But it does go to show how powerful Clive Palmer has become. You see, now he's in power, he's no longer a joke. I mean, he's still funny, but now in that scary, has control over your future kind of way. He's like a funny clown who moonlights as a surgeon and is for some reason operating on you right now. Well, Jazz Twemlow has more on Clive Palmer, Dr. Clown, MD.
I'm here in one of Clive Palmer's money rooms, where he regularly nestles into giant mounds of cash like a gargantuan child in a pile of leaves.
Yum yum.
And now this mining magnate is set to establish a formidable voting bloc in the Senate, where he will definitely prioritise you, the people, and not his towering pile of infinite riches. But remember before all this, when Clive Palmer was just a series of Titanic 2 and dinosaur jokes?
Hey, that mining guy's building a massive replica of a nautical disaster. What's that, a golf course with dinosaurs? Oh, now he's running for federal parliament. He'll never make it in politics.
No, he did. He just made it into parliament, so...
Well, at least his proposed senators won't get in. I mean, they're all sports personalities. Oh, I scored a try. Can I form a voting bloc?
And they did. They've just formed a voting bloc. You see, it turns out that these were all sort of Trojan jokes used to cunningly smuggle in a really obvious giant billionaire whose ascent to power was admittedly difficult to spot because of that party he named after himself. But if you want to know where the PUP's priorities lie, just try to imagine what motivated Palmer to form a party in the first place. Gentlemen, our profits are taking a pretty big hit. The carbon tax and the mining tax are hitting us hard because basically we are carbon-producing miners. In fact, it may as well be called the Palmer tax. So, we've got a couple of options for you. 1, produce less carbon. Okay. 2, you just sort of pay the taxes anyway and still remain disgustingly wealthy. Or 3, physically install Clive Palmer into Parliament so he can undo these taxes from the inside, like Randy Quaid at the end of Independence Day. I think I was actually being deliberately ridiculous. So well done, Australia, on being Clive Palmer's final wacky attraction. A country that voted in someone who literally ran on a platform of, I'm just here to change these policies that specifically help me and my amazing business. Also, I'm rebuilding Atlantis. From Clive Palmer's boardroom, I'm Jazz Twemlow.
An underwater city? Not with this government. I'm joking, of course, it's a very real possibility, rising sea levels and such. Hey, they're playing all the Lammy and the Brick episodes. It's the Lammy and the Brick marathon. And it's over. I'll talk through the whole thing. Good night.
The candidates are really just Palmer's pawns living in a pit.